this come together with Bo?
I mean, this is frankly a fairly traditional free agent process pursuit. We started talking with Bo and his representatives at the general managers meeting way back in November. We stayed in contact throughout the offseason as our offseason was developing and as Bo's offseason was developing. And I think throughout the offseason, Bo and his group were evaluating different structures, different lengths, different concepts, trying to see what was available. We made our interest known throughout on certain types of deals, and we're very excited and fortunate that he expressed interest in that and that we were able to get it done.
Did you have to wait for Tucker to come off the board before deciding on Bo, or what's the?
Sequencing in free agency can be strange sometimes, and you never know which is the first domino to drop, and oftentimes clubs are not the ones dictating that timing. Obviously we were involved in a number of different discussions for premium players this offseason, and we're thrilled that we were able to get over the finish line with Bo.
When you set out to start this offseason, obviously you had multiple plans and areas of need that you wanted. Are you surprised that you've been able to accomplish that without really giving up the core prospects that everyone wanted, but you still have them now as assets?
Yeah, look, we're fortunate that we're in a market with an ownership group that allows us to use financial resources as an advantage, and we've been able to do that this offseason. Prospects are an advantage too, and prospects are either an advantage because they ultimately contribute for you at the major league team, which I have no doubt some of ours will, or they're an advantage because you can turn them into other players who are going to contribute for you at the major league team. And I imagine over time, whether it's this offseason or in the future, we're going to take that route as well.
To that end, how much did the ask for Luis Robert Jr. change from the trade deadline to now?
I'm not going to get into sort of the specific asks. I'll say we were in contact with the White Sox for a long period of time, went through a variety of different concepts, ideas. It's kind of the fun thing about trade discussions is just bouncing ideas back and forth. And we finally got to one yesterday that got over the line for both sides.
Do you feel you're done addressing the lineup now, or could there be another piece?
Well, I'd say you're never done.
Mm-hmm.
Even when opening day comes, we're not done.
Right.
I'd say I feel good about where our position player grouping is, but at this point in the off season, you can never predict what's going to happen. Different things emerge. We're not going to close the door to anything. But where we stand right now, I do feel good about our position player grouping.
Given where you stand right now, how do you expect left field to shake out once we get to spring training?
We'll see. I think I've been very open that Carson Bench is going to have a chance to make this team. We've got a lot of people in our organization that feel that Brett Beatty is going to be a really good left fielder once he gets some experience out there. Tyrone Taylor has proven that he's an elite defensive outfielder. So I think we have some options out there. And we'll also continue to see how the offseason goes.
One of your goals after the season ended was to address the run prevention. Just how do you think adding two guys in Bichette and Bo who have not played those positions addresses that goal?
I think that's a very reasonable question. I also think there are going to be certain days this season, probably a lot of days this season, where we're playing four shortstops on the infield, and that's a pretty distinct advantage. So I definitely think there's going to be a learning curve. I'm not trying to dismiss that at all. I think for both Jorge and Bo, there's going to be a learning curve. I think the majority of that learning curve is going to be where to be on certain plays. Frankly, some things that may not be completely perceptible. We're probably going to make a mistake or two, but we're also going to have an elite range around the infield, and that's pretty exciting too.
Is that what you see as a distinct advantage, is the range that shortstops and the fundamentals that shortstops typically have?
Yeah, I think it's the range, the ability to frankly make throws that in the case of first baseman that not all first basemen can make, and so. Like I said, there's going to be a learning process to this, but I'm confident that both Bo and Jorge are going to take to these positions pretty well.
How do you get Robert back to the offensive player he was a few years ago?
Look, I think if that were clear cut and obvious, the White Sox would have done it. I think step one is, we've got to do everything we can to help Luis stay on the field. This is an enormously talented player. All of the underlying skills and tools are there. The same skills and tools that were there when he had his monster season a couple of years ago. So that is really encouraging, and that's what attracted us to him. And now we've got to put him in an environment where he's comfortable, where he's supported. Sometimes just a change of venue helps a little bit, and I think it might here.
You said you're going to like your range in the infield. Bichette's not, one of his knocks as a shortstop was lack of range. Forgive me for not knowing. Does he have good first step stuff that you think he'll have range as a third baseman?
I think generally, even shortstops who may not have great range as shortstops generally have pretty good range at other positions. And I think Bo's going to be able to handle that just fine at third base.
And arm-wise, you think he'll handle third
Yes.
base?
Just to go back to Brett, how do you anticipate maybe seeing his full list of responsibilities heading into this season?
Yeah, I think Brett has the ability, and we're going to challenge him to have the ability to play a bunch of different positions. We know he can play third and second. He proved that to us last year. I think we're probably going to add first and left to his toolkit as well. And that's a pretty good portfolio if he can get to the point where he's got all four of those comfortably in his bag. He's going to see a lot of time on the field. He's going to play a lot.
To the extent that you can predict these things, David, do you expect to address the rotation between now and spring training?
We're still having starting pitching discussions. We've been open about that. Whether we get something over the line or not, I don't know. It is really tough to predict. 3 days ago, if you had asked me, are you going to acquire Luis Robert, I would have said, I don't know. And we were able to pull off a trade last night. So these things literally can either move forward or back with one phone call or one text. And I think in a number of different situations, we are in that space where it can move markedly forward or markedly backwards in one phone call or one text.
Are you comfortable with the world in which you don't address it, or is that still a priority goal between now and then?
Look, I think my preference would be to add a starting pitcher. That remains my preference. It doesn't mean it's a certainty that we're going to do it, but yes, that would be my preference.
Dave Dombrowski was pretty open and candid yesterday about saying they felt like they were pretty close to a deal with Bo. How glad are you that you got him over a direct division rival like that? And did that affect, I guess, your level of pursuit with him? That it's, that was maybe the other team that was real close.
It really doesn't, and I understand that fans find that satisfying. I think we need to make sure we're acquiring players, and especially at acquisitions of this magnitude, that we're acquiring players that fit what we want to do, not remove them from another team.
These short-term, high-dollar contracts. You had one with Pete last year. Now we've seen a couple of them this winter. Why do you think this is becoming sort of a trend, or is it becoming a trend?
I don't know whether it's becoming a trend or not. I think maybe a couple more off seasons we'll learn. Some of it is club preference, some of it is player preference. It's clear that the way for any player to maximize their earnings is to go short term, right? And so a player is constantly faced with that decision throughout their careers. Do I want the long term security, or do I want the shorter term contract to maximize what I'm earning right now? I think maybe increasingly there are players who are willing to take those shorter term deals and teams that are willing to pay for it.
David, do you see you were going to land Kyle Tucker?
I'm sorry?
You think you were going to get Kyle Tucker?
I had no idea. I mean, I didn't know we were going to get Bo until Greg called me and said we had a deal. So you don't know. I've had so many deals that you think you're close on not happen at the 2-yard line, and then I've had deals where I don't think there's any shot, and you get a call, and it moves it forward, and you get it done. So I try not to handicap these things.
David, was this one of the, I'm assuming you have myriad plans upon plans. Did you have a plan that looked like this, or is this all audibling at the line of scrimmage once you see, like, okay, Tucker goes here, we'll do this?
No, I don't. Look, there's always variations as you go through an off season. I'm not trying to call it audibling. I think, we have ideas and structures and different paths depending on what is available to us. And this was certainly one of the paths, signing Bo in particular, that we had discussed.
Do you envision right now, is Vientos your DH, or do you want to rotate that? Or do you want to make another signing for a bat?
Yeah, I think Mark has the ability to take hold of that position. I think the nice thing about the way our position player grouping stacks up right now is we're probably going to have a little competition in a couple different spots, and that's not a bad thing.
Do you still see a role for Starling in this roster? Is that
Like Starling was a great met in terms of like our pursuit or non-pursuit of any particular free agent. I'm not going to get into it.
Yeah, where's Bo? Obviously missed a large part of the end of the season with the knee. Where's he at with that? Is that like 100% recovered, or is he still?
We feel good about that. Obviously, we put him through a very extensive physical process. I think he's very confident where the knee is. He's worked really hard this offseason, and so we expect him to be full go in spring training.
And as far as is he still already working at third base? I mean, did he start that process in the offseason?
I don't think he is. I don't think he has formally started that process yet. I think he will now. But you can also ask him if he's started taking ground balls over there. Maybe over the last couple of days he has.